Echoes of madness. In the heart of a dense forest, where the mist seemed to whisper secrets of a forgotten past, lay the remnants of the Hillgrove Asylum. It stood, a behemoth of decaying walls and shattered windows, draped in a cloak of wild ivy. Sarah, a journalist with an insatiable curiosity for the unknown, and Jake, a photographer whose skepticism was as renowned as his skill, stood at its gates. Their mission was simple yet daunting: to uncover the dark tales that lay hidden within its walls. As they pushed open the creaking iron gate, a chilling breeze greeted them, as if the asylum itself was aware of their intrusion. The once grand entrance hall was now a sanctuary for dust and shadows. Sarah's flashlight beam danced across the walls, revealing faded murals and peeling paint. Jake's camera clicked, capturing the eerie beauty of decay. Their exploration led them deeper into the asylum's heart. They found patient diaries, their pages yellowed with age, filled with scribbles that oscillated between lucidity and madness. Sarah's fingers traced the words, feeling the weight of the tormented souls that once roamed these halls. Jake, though skeptical, couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling creeping up his spine. As they ventured further, they stumbled upon a hidden door, its existence betrayed by a misplaced bookshelf. With a combined effort, they revealed a narrow passageway descending into darkness. The air grew colder as they descended, their breaths visible in the dim light of Sarah's flashlight. The walls were lined with old, rusted equipment, and at the end of the corridor, they found it, a secret laboratory untouched by time. The lab was a chamber of horrors, shelves lined with jars containing unidentifiable specimens, archaic medical instruments, and files documenting inhumane experiments. Sarah's heart pounded as she flipped through the pages, each revelation more horrifying than the last. Jake's skepticism faltered, replaced by a growing horror at the atrocities committed in the name of science. Suddenly, a flickering light caught their attention. A projector, somehow still functional, began to play a grainy black and white film. It showed patients being subjected to cruel treatments, their cries echoing through the speakers. Sarah felt a tear slide down her cheek, her emotions a mix of anger and sorrow. Jake, unable to watch any longer, turned off the projector, plunging the room back into silence. They decided to leave, the weight of their discoveries heavy on their hearts. But as they turned to exit, they heard it, a soft whisper echoing through the corridors. Sarah and Jake exchanged a look of fear and curiosity. Following the sound, they found themselves in the old patient wards. The beds were neatly made, as if waiting for their former occupants to return. Then, the temperature plummeted. Their breaths turned to frost, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Shadows began to move, forming shapes that were human yet not quite. Ghostly apparitions of former patients roamed, their faces twisted in eternal agony. Sarah's heart raced, her belief in the rational world shaken. Jake, camera in hand, captured the impossible scenes before him, his skepticism shattered. In the midst of the chaos, a figure emerged from the shadows. A doctor, his expression twisted in a grotesque smile, holding a syringe filled with a dark liquid. He spoke, his voice a mere echo. "Welcome to the experiment." Panic surged through Sarah and Jake. They ran, the ghostly figures reaching out to them, their whispers a cacophony in the darkness. They burst out of the asylum into the safety of the morning light. Panting and disheveled, they looked back at the building. It stood silent, as if the night's horrors were nothing but a figment of their imagination. But the camera in Jake's hand and the diary in Sarah's told a different story. As they drove away, the asylum disappearing into the mist, Sarah and Jake knew they had uncovered a truth too horrifying to be believed. The line between sanity and madness, reality and the supernatural, had blurred. They had heard the echoes of madness, and those echoes would haunt them forever. In the asylum's abandoned halls, the temperature dropped once more, and a flickering light flickered to life. The whispers resumed, a testament to the horrors that lingered in the echo of Hillgrove Asylum's past. Shadows of the Forgotten. In the heart of a forgotten wood, hidden under the canopy of ancient trees, stood the Blackwood Mansion. Its once grand facade had faded into a haunting silhouette, a reminder of a legacy long lost to time. Emily, a young woman with a curious spirit, found herself the unexpected heir to this decrepit estate. Accompanying her was Thomas, a local historian with a passion for unraveling the mysteries of the past. The air around the mansion was thick with an unspoken warning, as if the house itself was reluctant to reveal its secrets. Emily, undeterred by the mansion's ominous presence, pushed open the heavy front door. A cloud of dust greeted them, swirling in the slivers of light that penetrated the gloom. As they explored, The mansion seemed to groan under the weight of its own history. The walls were adorned with portraits of Emily's ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow every step she took. It was in the grand hall that they found the first clue, a mysterious locket, hidden beneath the floorboards, containing a portrait of a woman whose eyes bore a haunting sadness. Thomas, with his knowledge of the local lore, recounted tales of the Blackwood family, a lineage marked by tragedy and rumored to be cursed. Emily listened, a sense of unease growing within her. As night fell, the mansion seemed to come alive with whispered secrets and creaking floorboards. Their search led them to a hidden room, its existence masked behind a false wall. Inside, they found letters, yellowed with age, chronicling a tale of forbidden love and vengeful betrayal. The woman in the locket was revealed to be a servant of the house, wronged by Emily's ancestors, her fate sealed in tragedy. As they delved deeper into the story, the atmosphere in the mansion grew heavier, the shadows darker. It was then that they saw her, the spectral figure of the woman from the locket, her gaze filled with sorrow and rage. Her apparition flickered in the dim light, a phantom trapped in time. Emily felt a connection to this spirit, a shared sense of loss and injustice. She realized that her family's past was marred by deeds most foul, acts that had left a stain on the very walls of the mansion. Thomas, witnessing the ghostly phenomena, knew that they were dealing with a spirit bound by the need for retribution. The ghostly figure led them to a hidden chamber, its walls lined with the dark history of the Blackwood family. Here, the full extent of the betrayal was revealed, a story of greed, envy, and a curse that had doomed the lineage. The spirit's revelation was a plea for closure, a chance to right the wrongs of the past. Emily, moved by the spirit's plight, vowed to restore honor to her family's name. She and Thomas worked to uncover the truth, to bring to light the injustices that had been buried within these walls. As they did, the mansion seemed to sigh in relief, the oppressive atmosphere lifting ever so slightly. The climax of their endeavor came on a stormy night, when the spirit of the wronged woman appeared once more. Emily, standing in the heart of the mansion, declared her intention to break the cycle of suffering that had plagued her family. She acknowledged the pain caused by her ancestors and offered a heartfelt apology to the spirit. With that, the ghostly figure smiled, a look of peace finally gracing her ethereal features. The mansion, sensing the resolution of its long-held secret, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The portraits on the walls, once oppressive in their gaze, now looked on with a benign presence. As the spirit faded away, the mansion transformed. The walls, once decaying, seemed to regain a fraction of their former glory. Emily and Thomas left the mansion, knowing that the shadows of the forgotten had been acknowledged and the curse lifted. In the days that followed, Emily dedicated herself to restoring the mansion, turning it into a symbol of reconciliation and hope. The once dreaded Blackwood mansion became a place of refuge, its dark past replaced by a future filled with promise. But even as life returned to the mansion, there remained a sense in the air, a whisper of the past, reminding all who entered that history, no matter how dark, should never be forgotten. Whispers in the dark. Nestled on the edge of dense, whispering woods, the old Willow Creek boarding school stood silent and forsaken. Its empty windows gazed forlornly into the wilderness, guarding the secrets of years long past. Alex, a seasoned paranormal investigator, and Lily, a young psychic medium with a gentle demeanor, arrived at its gates. Their mission was to probe the mysteries that the abandoned school harbored. The air was thick with the scent of moss and old stone as they entered the main hall. The echo of their footsteps seemed to stir whispers from the shadows, a chorus of voices from another time. Alex, armed with his gadgets and skepticism, moved cautiously, while Lily, sensitive to the unseen energies, felt a shiver of anticipation. Their exploration led them to a classroom, where rows of dusty desks sat in silent testimony to the laughter and learning they once held. Lily was drawn to a corner where a mysterious old doll lay, its glassy eyes seeming to watch them intently. As she touched it, a cold wave enveloped the room, and faint, ghostly giggles echoed in the dim light. Alex's equipment flickered erratically, signaling a presence that defied the laws of nature. As night enveloped the school, they prepared for a seance in the old library. The air grew colder, the only light emanating from the circle of candles they had lit. Lily's voice trembled as she called out to the spirits of the school, inviting them to communicate. The flames flickered as if responding to her call, and a hush fell over the room. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The room grew oppressively cold, and a child's voice whispered from the darkness, "Help us." The candles sputtered as if straining against an unseen wind, and the pages of nearby books fluttered wildly. Lily, maintaining her calm, asked the spirit to reveal its story. The voice, now clearer, spoke of a hidden tragedy, a fire that had swept through part of the school long ago, claiming the lives of several children. Their spirits, bound by their untimely demise, lingered in the halls, their laughter and cries a haunting reminder of the disaster. Lily's heart ached for them, their unresolved grief palpable in the cold air. Alex, despite his usual skepticism, could not deny the evidence before him. His devices registered anomalies that defied explanation, and the child's voice on his audio recorder was a chilling testament to the paranormal phenomena. Guided by the spirit, they ventured to the old dormitories, where the fire had claimed its victims. The walls were scorched and blackened, the air heavy with the scent of char and sorrow. It was here, beneath the creaking floorboards, that they uncovered the final piece of the puzzle, a hidden burial ground where the remains of the lost children had been hastily interred. As they uncovered the burial ground, the atmosphere in the school shifted, the oppressive air lifted, and the temperature rose to a more natural warmth. The child's spirit spoke once more, its voice now filled with a sense of peace. "Thank you." In the days that followed, Alex and Lily worked with local authorities to properly lay the children's remains to rest. A small memorial was erected in the woods, a tribute to the innocent lives lost. The school, once a place of sorrow and unrest, now stood as a silent guardian of memory and history. The whispers in the dark had been heard, and the spirits of Willow Creek boarding school had found their peace. Alex and Lily left the school with a sense of accomplishment, knowing they had helped resolve a tragic chapter in the school's history. The mystery of the Willow Creek boarding school was solved, but the experience would linger with them, a reminder of the delicate veil between the living and the spirits. In the quiet of the night, the wind still whispered through the trees surrounding the old school, but now it carried a message of peace, a soothing lullaby for the souls that had once been lost in the shadows. The unseen watcher. Nora had always sought solitude for her writing, and the old lighthouse on Mariner's Isle seemed the perfect retreat. Perched on the edge of a cliff, the lighthouse stood like a lonely sentinel overlooking the churning sea. Its walls, battered by years of storms and salt, whispered tales of the past. Nora, with her notebook and thoughts, hoped to find inspiration within its solitary embrace. The island's only other inhabitant was Evan, a grizzled fisherman who had lived his whole life in tune with the sea's capricious moods. He warned Nora of the lighthouse's eerie history, of whispers about a keeper who vanished into the night, leaving nothing but shadows and mystery. Nora, intrigued rather than deterred, smiled at these tales, considering them fodder for her stories. As days passed, Nora settled into a routine, her hours filled with the rhythmic sound of the waves and the scratching of her pen. However, the tranquility of the lighthouse began to unravel. At night, she felt a presence, an unsettling sensation of being watched. Shadows seemed to play tricks in the corners of her room, and the wind carried what sounded like whispered conversations. Trying to shake off her unease, Nora explored the lighthouse, her curiosity leading her to a hidden room beneath the stairwell. In this forgotten chamber, she found an old diary, its pages yellowed with age. The diary belonged to the vanished keeper, and his words painted a portrait of a man tormented by an unseen entity. He wrote of flickering lights, strange reflections in the water, and the unsettling feeling of eyes constantly upon him. Nora's nights became sleepless, the diary's words echoing in her mind. She shared her findings with Evan, who listened with a furrowed brow. He admitted to also feeling a strange aura around the lighthouse, a sensation he had long attributed to the loneliness of the island. Their conversation was cut short by the arrival of a storm, a tempest that enveloped the island in a shroud of rain and thunder. The sea turned violent, its waves crashing against the cliffs with a fury that made escape impossible. Nora and Evan were trapped, the storm a relentless force outside. That night, the lighthouse's beacon flickered erratically, casting an eerie glow across the room. Nora, unable to sleep, watched as shadows danced on the walls. The wind howled, a sound almost human in its lament. Then she heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps above her, pacing back and forth. Gripped by a mix of fear and determination, Nora braved the narrow stairway leading to the top of the lighthouse. Each step creaked under her weight, the storm's cacophony a soundtrack to her ascent. At the top, she found nothing but the beacon's light and rain battering the windows. Returning to her room, Nora felt the presence stronger than ever. It was as if the storm had awakened something within the lighthouse, a restless spirit bound to the lonely tower. She sensed its gaze upon her, a weight that pressed down on her soul. Evan found her the next morning, her eyes wide with unspoken fear. He suggested they try to cleanse the lighthouse, to rid it of whatever haunted its halls. Together, they lit candles and recited old prayers that Evan's grandmother had taught him, rituals meant to calm restless spirits. As they moved through the lighthouse, a sense of peace began to settle. The feeling of being watched slowly receded, and the shadows seemed to retreat. By the time the storm cleared, Nora felt a change in the air, a lightness that hadn't been there before. In the calm after the storm, Nora stood at the top of the lighthouse, looking out at the serene sea. She realized that the lighthouse, with its isolation and mysteries, had given her more than a retreat for writing. It had shown her the thin veil between reality and the unseen, between solitude and the presence of something else. Nora left the island with her notebook filled with new stories, tales born from the experience of being watched by an unseen entity. Evan waved goodbye from the shore, a knowing look in his eyes. The lighthouse, now silent and watchful, stood waiting for its next visitor, its next story to be told. In the nights that followed, the lighthouse stood alone under the starlit sky. But inside, the echo of footsteps could still be heard, a reminder of the unseen watcher that lingered in its shadows. Beneath the surface, in the heart of the city, hidden beneath layers of forgotten streets and busy thoroughfares, lay the old subway system of Redwood City. Abandoned for decades, it had become a subject of urban legends and eerie tales. Mark, an adventurous urban explorer, and Eliza, a documentary filmmaker with a keen interest in the unusual, teamed up to delve into the depths of this underground world. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they descended the long unused stairway leading to the subway. The air grew cooler and heavier with each step, the darkness enveloping them like a thick blanket. Their lights revealed faded signs and peeling paint, the remnants of a time when life thrummed through these tunnels. As they ventured deeper, the silence was broken only by their footsteps and the occasional drip of water. Eliza's camera captured the eerie beauty of the decay, the artistry and the desolation. Mark's excitement grew with each new discovery, his eyes shining with the thrill of the unknown. Their exploration led them to a section of the tunnel where the tracks veered off into an uncharted direction. Curiosity piqued, they followed the tracks, the beam of their flashlights cutting through the darkness. It was here that they stumbled upon an unexpected sight, a train car, its presence an anachronism in the forgotten tunnel. The train car, its paint chipped and windows cracked, stood as a silent sentinel of the past. Mark and Eliza cautiously approached, their hearts pounding in anticipation of what they might find. Inside, the car was empty, save for the remnants of long-gone passengers, a scattered newspaper, a lone shoe, an air of mystery. As Eliza filmed, Mark noticed something odd about the graffiti on the walls. It seemed to shift and change when not directly looked at, its messages an eerie, morphing riddle. The images were unsettling, depicting scenes of chaos and despair. Eliza felt a chill run down her spine, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. Their exploration took a sinister turn when they heard it. The sound of echoing footsteps coming from the darkness behind them. They turned their lights toward the sound, but found nothing. The footsteps grew louder, more insistent, as if something or someone was approaching. Mark and Eliza quickened their pace, their calm demeanor giving way to a growing sense of dread. The tunnels seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways, the graffiti leering at them from the walls. They realized they were no longer alone in the depths of the subway. It was then that they encountered it, a cryptic entity, its form shifting in the dim light. It was as if the shadows themselves had come alive, coalescing into a figure both human and otherworldly. The entity spoke in a voice that echoed through the tunnels, its words a cryptic warning of the dangers lurking beneath the surface. Mark and Eliza, their hearts racing, knew they had to escape. They retraced their steps, the entity's chilling words echoing in their minds. The subway seemed to resist their departure, the tunnels narrowing, the air growing heavier. Finally, they saw the light of the exit, the promise of safety. They emerged into the world above, the sun's rays a stark contrast to the darkness they had left behind. Panting and disheveled, they looked at each other, their eyes reflecting a mix of fear and exhilaration. The footage Eliza captured was more than just a documentary of urban exploration. It was a glimpse into the unknown, a testament to the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the city's surface. The experience left them with more questions than answers, the reality of their encounter a subject of debate and wonder. Mark and Eliza's adventure in the old subway became a story whispered in the circles of urban explorers and thrill seekers. The tale of the lost train car and the cryptic entity lived on, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. The hollow, Deep within a dense, whispering forest, hidden under a shroud of perpetual mist, lay the remnants of Eldridge Village. Once a bustling community, it had long since been surrendered to the elements, its stories and secrets fading into the realm of folklore. Daniel, an avid hiker with a thirst for adventure, and Olivia, a researcher fascinated by local legends, embarked on a journey to uncover the mysteries of this forgotten place. As they stepped into the village, a veil of fog enveloped them, the outside world seemingly disappearing behind them. The houses, with their peeling paint and overgrown gardens, stood as silent witnesses to times gone by. The air was heavy with a sense of anticipation, as if the village itself was holding its breath. Their exploration led them to the village square, where a towering, ancient clock stood, its hands frozen in time. Olivia, with her knowledge of folklore, recalled tales of a cursed timepiece, said to trap the village in an endless cycle of the same day. Daniel, skeptical yet intrigued, examined the clock, wondering about the truth behind the legend. As night fell, the village seemed to awaken. Shadows moved in the corners of their eyes, and the sound of distant laughter and music drifted through the mist. Following these phantom sounds, they came upon ghostly figures, apparitions of the villagers, reenacting scenes of their daily lives, oblivious to the passage of time. Daniel and Olivia watched, fascinated and unsettled, as the ghostly villagers faded in and out of existence. It was as if they were witnessing echoes of the past, moments replayed in an endless loop. The atmosphere was surreal, a disorienting blend of the past and present. They soon realized that time in the village was not as it should be. The night seemed to stretch on indefinitely, the moon hanging motionless in the sky. A growing sense of unease took hold of them as they tried to find their way back to the forest's edge, only to end up back in the village square, the clock's unmoving hands mocking their efforts. Olivia's research came to mind. Stories of a time loop, a curse that held the village in its grasp. They were trapped in the hollow, caught in the cyclic nature of a fate they did not understand. Panic set in as they searched for a way to break the cycle, to escape the endless night. Their exploration for an escape led them to a hidden library, its shelves laden with dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts. Among these, they found a diary belonging to the clockmaker, revealing the origin of the curse. The clockmaker had sought to control time, only to become its prisoner, his creation ensnaring the entire village in its spell. Armed with this knowledge, they returned to the clock in the village square. Daniel, recalling the clockmaker's notes, began to adjust the gears and mechanisms hidden within the clock's base. Olivia, meanwhile, recited an incantation from the diary, a plea to the spirits of the village for release. As the clock's hands began to move, a cacophony of bells and chimes filled the air. The ghostly villagers stopped their endless loop, turning their gaze towards Daniel and Olivia. A wind rose, sweeping away the fog, revealing the first light of dawn on the horizon. The village began to fade around them, the apparitions smiling gratefully as they disappeared into the morning light. Daniel and Olivia found themselves standing at the edge of the forest, the sun rising before them, the village of Eldridge now nothing but a memory. They left the hollow with a sense of profound relief, their minds reeling from the night's surreal events. The experience had blurred the lines between legend and reality, showing them the power of history and the trap of unbroken cycles. Back in the realm of the living, Daniel and Olivia shared their story, their adventure becoming a part of the folklore that surrounded the mysterious Eldridge village. The hollow remained hidden in the woods, its secrets now at rest, a reminder of the cyclic nature of time and the ghosts of history that linger in forgotten places. Echoes from the deep. The vast, unending expanse of the ocean held many secrets, but none so captivating as the mystery of the SS Orion, an ocean liner that had vanished decades ago, only to reappear adrift in a remote part of the sea. Henry, a seasoned salvage operator, and Mia, a determined marine archaeologist, embarked on an expedition to unravel the secrets of this ghostly vessel. As their boat approached the SS Orion, the liner loomed like a giant relic from a bygone era, its once magnificent structure now a shadow of rust and decay. The sea was eerily calm, the silence broken only by the creaking of the old ship as it swayed gently in the water. Boarding the liner, Henry and Mia felt as if they had stepped into a different time. The grand hall was adorned with faded tapestries and chandeliers covered in cobwebs. A thick layer of dust blanketed everything, and the air was heavy with the scent of salt and rust. Their exploration led them to the captain's cabin, where they discovered an old logbook. The entries revealed a tale of a mysterious illness that had swept through the ship, creating panic and chaos among the passengers and crew. The last entry was abrupt, ending mid-sentence, as if the writer had been suddenly interrupted. As they delved deeper into the ship, strange occurrences began to unfold. Doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the eerie corridors. The sound of ghostly whispers filled the air, and the faint echo of a distress signal from long ago played over the ship's crackling speakers. In the dining hall, they came across the most chilling sight yet, the ghostly figures of passengers, forever frozen in time, their expressions twisted in fear and despair. Mia, her heart pounding, felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow emanating from these spectral remnants of the past. The ship seemed to come alive around them, with unexplained creaks and groans. Flickering lights in the portholes created dancing shadows that seemed to beckon them deeper into the liner's haunted depths. Henry, a man of logic, struggled to rationalize the unexplainable phenomena, while Mia was drawn to the stories hidden in the ship's decaying walls. Their journey took a terrifying turn when they entered a room that suddenly began to fill with water. The doors jammed, leaving them trapped as the icy seawater rose rapidly around their ankles. Panic set in as they desperately searched for an escape, the ghostly cries of the ship's former inhabitants echoing in their ears. In a stroke of luck, or perhaps guided by the unseen hands of the past, they found a hidden passage leading to the upper deck. Gasping for breath, they emerged into the open air, the night sky above them a blanket of stars. The SS Orion, now seemingly satisfied with their ordeal, grew calm. The ghostly apparitions faded away, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Henry and Mia realized that they had experienced the echoes of the deep, the lingering despair and unresolved fate of the ship and its passengers. As they returned to their boat, the SS Orion began to fade into the mist, as if returning to the depths from which it had emerged. They left with more than just photographs and artifacts. They carried with them the haunting memories of their encounter with a past that refused to be forgotten. The story of their expedition became a legend among sailors and adventurers, a tale of a haunted ship lost in time, and the echoes of despair that resonated from its rusting hull. The SS Orion, adrift in the vast, unforgiving sea, remained a ghostly enigma, its secrets forever echoing in the deep. Afterimage. In the heart of the city, hidden behind overgrown vines and a forgotten history, stood the once renowned Starlight Film Studio. Its glory days were long gone, leaving behind a treasure trove of old props, costumes, and reels of film. Claire, an aspiring actress with dreams of stardom, and Leo, a vintage film enthusiast and collector, ventured into this relic of cinematic history to uncover its forgotten stories. The studio, with its cobwebbed corridors and dust-laden sets, was like stepping into a time capsule. Old posters of movies long forgotten adorned the walls, their colors faded but their magic still lingering in the air. Claire, her eyes alight with wonder, twirled among the racks of costumes, each piece a fragment of a story untold. Leo, his curiosity piqued by the antique projectors and film reels, found a reel marked Never Screen. Its mysterious label beckoned them, and they set up one of the old projectors in the screening room. The room, once a place of premieres and celebrations, now sat in silent anticipation of its final show. As the film crackled to life, the room was filled with the black and white imagery of a film that seemed strangely familiar yet hauntingly foreign. The actors on the screen, their expressions frozen in time, suddenly seemed to gaze directly at Claire and Leo, their eyes conveying an eerie sense of urgency. The more they watched, the more unsettled they became. The characters in the film seemed to be reaching out to them, their silent mouths moving in desperate pleas. Claire, her heart racing, felt an unexplainable connection to the actress on the screen, a woman whose ambitions mirrored her own. Their exploration took a surreal turn when they discovered a mirror hidden beneath a dusty tarp. The mirror, unlike any other, showed not their reflections but scenes from another time, the studio in its heyday, bustling with actors, directors, and the chaos of creation. It was in this mirror that they saw her, the actress from the film, her gaze pleading for help. Leo, his fascination turning to horror, began to piece together the studio's dark secret. The films were not mere recordings but traps for the souls who sought fame and fortune. The actors were prisoners, their spirits bound to the celluloid reels, reliving their performances for eternity. As they delved deeper into the studio's archives, they found diaries and letters from the past actors and filmmakers. These documents told tales of ambition that turned to obsession, of a studio that offered fame but at a cost far too great. The spirits of these artists were trapped, their only escape through the projection of their films. The realization hit Claire and Leo with chilling clarity. They were not alone. The spirits of the past actors roamed the studio, their whispers echoing in the empty halls, their presences felt in the flickering shadows. The costumes seemed to move of their own accord. The old film reels hummed with a life of their own. In a desperate attempt to free the trapped souls, Claire and Leo set out to destroy the haunted film reel. But the studio, as if conscious of their intent, fought back. Lights flickered, sets collapsed, and the ghostly actors converged upon them, their afterimages flickering in and out of reality. The climax came as they reached the projector room, the film reel spinning wildly as the trapped spirit's pleas grew louder. Claire, her resolve strengthened by the actress's silent call for help, smashed the projector, the film erupting into flames that consumed the haunted reel. As the fire died down, a calm settled over the studio. The spirits, their bonds broken, faded away with smiles of gratitude, their afterimages disappearing into the ether. Claire and Leo, their hearts heavy with the weight of their experience, knew they had freed the souls that had been trapped in a perpetual loop of ambition and despair. They left the studio, the echoes of the past fading behind them. The Starlight Film Studio, now truly abandoned, stood silent, its stories told and its spirits at rest. Claire and Leo's adventure became a whispered legend among those who dream of fame, a cautionary tale of the price one might pay for the allure of the spotlight. In the quiet that followed, the studio lay in wait, its secrets sealed within its crumbling walls. But in the stillness of the night, if one listened closely, they could hear the faint whir of a projector, the ghostly laughter of actors long gone, the lingering afterimage of dreams and desires once pursued within its hallowed halls. Frostbitten, high in the mountains, shrouded in a blanket of snow and forgotten by time, stood the Wintercrest Ski Resort. Once a bustling haven for ski enthusiasts, it now lay desolate, its slopes silent and its chairlifts motionless. Kara, a survival blogger with a thirst for adventure, and Ryan, an experienced mountaineer, found themselves seeking refuge in this icy ghost town after a fierce blizzard cut off their path down the mountain. As they trudged through the thick snow, the resort emerged before them like a frozen specter. Its buildings were coated in layers of ice, the windows staring blankly at the endless white expanse. The silence was overwhelming, only broken by the howling wind that seemed to carry faint, indistinct whispers. Seeking shelter, Kara and Ryan entered the main lodge. Inside, the cold was relentless, as if the building itself was inhaling the icy air. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing a lobby stuck in time, chairs upturned, and a frost-covered guestbook lying open on the reception desk. Their exploration led them to the dining hall where they made a chilling discovery. Figures seated at the tables, frozen solid, their faces eternally captured in expressions of terror and surprise. Kara, her heart pounding, documented this eerie scene while Ryan searched for clues to what had happened. In a room that once served as a cozy lounge, they found a diary, its pages brittle with cold. The entries were written by the resort manager, detailing the arrival of an unseasonal storm that had trapped the guests and staff. As the entries progressed, the tone shifted from concern to despair, ending with a chilling final entry that spoke of a blizzard that breathes and watches. The reality of their situation became terrifyingly clear when they tried to exit the lodge. The blizzard outside had intensified, the snow swirling in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, blocking their way. The cold was unnatural, seeping into their bones, a physical presence trying to hold them captive. Kara and Ryan realized they were not battling just the elements, but something far more sinister. The blizzard seemed to be alive, its winds whispering secrets in a language they couldn't understand. Icicles formed strange symbols on the windows, a cryptic language of the storm. As night fell, the temperature dropped further, the darkness outside complete. The lodge became a world of its own, every creak and groan magnified in the silence. The frozen figures seemed to watch them, a gallery of icy spectators. They decided to wait out the night in the lodge, hoping for a break in the storm. As they huddled together for warmth, the diary's words echoed in their minds, a warning of a supernatural force that had claimed the resort and its inhabitants. Throughout the night, strange phenomena occurred. Shadows moved in the corner of their eyes, the frozen figures seemed to shift positions, and the winds howling formed coherent words, calling out to them. Sleep was impossible, the lodge a labyrinth of frost and fear. In the morning, the blizzard showed no signs of abating. Determined to escape, Kara and Ryan braved the storm, fighting through the blinding snow and piercing wind. The resort seemed to resist their departure, the snowdrifts forming walls, the wind pushing them back. As they struggled, the storm reached a fever pitch, the air alive with a malevolent energy. In a moment of clarity, Ryan remembered the symbols in the ice, recognizing them as an old mountain warning of spirits disturbed by human intrusion. They realized the only way to appease the storm was to acknowledge and respect the force they had awakened. Kara, using her knowledge of survival rituals, created a makeshift offering from items found in the lodge, while Ryan recited words of respect and apology to the mountain. As they performed the ritual, the blizzard's fury began to diminish, the winds howling softening to a mournful whisper. The snow stopped its aggressive swirling, settling into a gentle dance. The atmosphere lightened, the oppressive feeling lifting like a fog. Kara and Ryan, their bodies numb but spirits lifted, found their way through the now calm snow. As they descended the mountain, they looked back at the Wintercrest ski resort, now just a silhouette against the white landscape. They left the mountain with a newfound respect for nature's unyielding power and the mysteries hidden in its depths. The experience at Wintercrest became a tale of caution and awe, a story of survival against a supernatural blizzard, a force beyond human understanding. Back in the warmth of civilization, Kara and Ryan shared their story, a testament to the perils of underestimating the mountain. Wintercrest Ski Resort remained shrouded in its icy mantle, a frozen monument to the past, its whispers carried by the wind, a reminder of the cold grip of nature's untamed spirit. Reverberations. In the heart of an old, forgotten part of the city stood the Majestic, an abandoned concert hall that once echoed with the sounds of music and applause. Now, it sat in silence, its grandeur faded, with decaying instruments and tattered sheet music as the only remnants of its glorious past. Simon, a young and ambitious sound engineer fascinated by acoustic mysteries, and Audrey, a pianist with a talent as profound as her secretive past, were drawn to the Majestic, each seeking answers to their own unspoken question. As they stepped into the concert hall, a feeling of nostalgia and sorrow washed over them. The air was thick with the dust of memories, and each step they took stirred echoes of a time long gone. The stage, lit by a few shafts of light from the broken ceiling, held a grand piano, its black lacquer dull with age but still imposing. Audrey, unable to resist the pull of the instrument, approached the piano. Her fingers brushed over the keys, and to her surprise, a note rang out, clear and haunting in the heavy air. Simon, his recording equipment at the ready, watched in awe as Audrey began to play. The music was melancholic, filling the hall with a melody that seemed to transcend time. As the notes reverberated through the hall, strange occurrences began to unfold. The decaying instruments scattered around the hall started to resonate, contributing their own ghostly sounds to Audrey's playing. The air grew colder, and a sense of anticipation filled the space, as if the hall itself was awakening from a long slumber. Simon, his curiosity piqued by the unexplained acoustics, started recording the phenomena. His equipment picked up sounds that should not have been there. A phantom orchestra accompanying Audrey, spectral applause from an unseen audience. The atmosphere was charged with an eerie energy, a symphony of suspense building around them. Audrey, lost in the music, played a piece that seemed both familiar and foreign. Her fingers moved with a life of their own, guided by a force she couldn't explain. Simon, listening intently, realized that the music was telling a story, the tragic history of the Majestic, of artists and musicians whose dreams had been cut short. As the melody continued, the spirits of the past musicians materialized, their ghostly figures taking their places in the orchestra. The piano played on, now by itself, as Audrey stepped back, her face pale with a realization she was playing the final piece of a composer who had once performed in this very hall, his career ended by a tragic accident. The ghostly orchestra reached its crescendo, the music filling every corner of the hall, a haunting reminder of the talent and dreams that had once graced this stage. Simon and Audrey, surrounded by the music and the phantoms, felt an overwhelming sense of loss and beauty intertwined in the notes. As the final note echoed through the hall, the ghostly musicians faded away, their presence leaving a lingering sense of peace. The piano's keys came to a rest, the melody completed, its story told. Simon and Audrey stood in silence, the weight of the experience heavy upon them. In the days that followed, Simon released the recordings of the Phantom Orchestra, the music captivating all who heard it. The story of their experience at the Majestic spread, reigniting interest in the forgotten concert hall and its history. Audrey, her connection to the past rekindled through the music, found a new sense of purpose. She dedicated herself to bringing forgotten pieces and composers back to life, her performances imbued with the soul of the Majestic. The concert hall, once abandoned and silent, became a symbol of the enduring power of music and the stories it holds. It stood as a testament to the echoes of lost talent and the reverberations of dreams that never die. And sometimes, in the quiet of the night, the faint sound of a piano could be heard from the majestic, a ghostly melody playing in tribute to the artists who had once filled its hall with music and life.